so much for joining us. We're going to talk about a brand new news app. Not so brand new, but it's called Zolt, and the founder is Rush Sariwala. Thank you so much. From Bombay and also New York. Tell me how you came up with Zolt.
Sure, Ann, and thanks for having me on your show. It's a pleasure to be here. So my background is in investments. I worked in finance for about 6 years in private equity and
on Wall Street.
On Wall Street and also in Asia, in Hong Kong. And I would find myself, putting together 30-page investment memos and large documents, complex documents, and when I would present it to my boss, I would say to Bill, like, hey, just give me the highlights, or tell me what's important. And nobody really has the time to kind of dive deep on the surface. Only if it interested them did they want to go down deeper. And this is something that occurred again and again and again. And that really stuck with me. And simultaneously, I was talking to my younger cousin sister, who's 17 years old, and her friends, and I would talk to them, and I was horrified with, how little...
No attention span?
No attention span, and also just oblivious to the world around them. We're living on Instagram and Snapchat, but they don't know about what's going on outside. And so I would engage with them, and I'd be like, hey, why don't you read a newspaper? Or why don't you, watch the news? And they'd be like, oh, that's boring, or it's too heavy. So I put the two and two together, and I was like, can we make something that makes the news quick, easy, and fun to consume? And out of that, Zolt was born. So what we do essentially at Zolt is we read the stories for you and give you 60-word summaries of the news, with the option to go down and read the full article if you want.
So let's take a look at this. I first noticed this on Twitter. And if we just go through this, it is almost like reading the newspaper. You're on top of current events when things happen. You can go and you can personalize your news feed, check out anything you want to, business, entertainment, technology. And then you did something like this a few days ago. Tell me about this.
Sure, so this is a new feature we introduced called Shush. And what Shush is, it gives our users the ability to block certain people or events from their newsfeed.
Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, and the Kardashians.
That's right. So just Kim Kardashian for now, but we'll probably be adding a few more Kardashians to that list.
How long ago did you do this?
This feature went live about a week ago.
A week ago. People are writing about it. Tell me about the stats, the analytics of who decided to block who here.
Sure, so of our user base, it's interesting, 19% of our users decided to block Hillary Clinton, 42% decided to block Donald Trump, and 89% of our users decided to block Kim Kardashian.
Well, there you go. So that's interesting. If we go back to this again, as I said, I first found this on Twitter, and I thought it was brilliant because I have 60 words, not 140 words. So I'm getting more of a story, and then I can go to the full story if I want to read more there. I said to you, I think you're onto something, and you said to me, the field is very crowded. Who are your competitors for this news app?
Yes, so there is a number of news apps out there, smaller news apps and as well as larger, much larger players. So Twitter is obviously a go-to news source for a lot of people. They're giving you 140 characters, and they're almost usually the first to break stories. And then there's Facebook, which a lot of people rely on for their news. But something very interesting happened 3 weeks ago. Facebook changed their algorithm. So typically, most people were seeing a lot of news on their Facebook feed, and what their friends were sharing, and they were relying on that as their news source. Facebook 3 weeks ago decided that they were, quote, not going to be a newspaper, and have tweaked their algorithm to de-emphasize the news. So you're not going to see as much news on Facebook.
Though you do see trending on the right-hand side.
You'll see the trending, but on your news feed, you're going to see more dog pictures, more birthday parties, or more vacation pictures, which is Facebook going more towards their roots, which was a social network and not a news publication. And that, to us at least, is a gift from God, because suddenly you have an enormous number of people who are not getting their news, or as much news as they used to, from Facebook, that suddenly now need to find a new news source. And we're hoping to fill that vacuum with Zolt.
How many users do you have now? And when did you roll it out first?
So we launched 3 months ago on both Android and iOS, and we're about to cross 10,000 users by the end of next month.
10,000 users. How big is staff?
So I have 11 people on my team, 5 of whom are engineers. So we're as much a technology company as we are a news company, I feel.
Do you plan to do videos at some point, just like everybody else is going to do?
Yeah, actually videos are coming out next week, videos and GIFs. So, you know, you wake up in the morning and there was a hockey game last night, and you see the card, we give you the summary, the story, and there's a GIF of just the goal being scored. And you can get quickly updated, and that's what we're trying to do at Zolt.
Which we learned it was GIF and not GIF, so that's good. Now we know how to say it.
I hope it's GIF.
You know, it is GIF.
Okay.
The originator of the GIF said, yes, it is, it's GIF.
Oh, okay.
Now you're a Wall Street guy, you worked in Asia, you're a numbers guy. What happened in your life to say, I'm gonna do something else? It happened on a plane, correct?
That's right. I was on a flight from Hong Kong to Singapore onwards, and I happened to be sitting next to somebody, and he was an American as well. So we got talking, and he to this date remains a very strong influence in my life. And
just a stranger though at the time?
He's a complete stranger. We just hit it off and got talking. And he was a priest who had become an investment banker in Singapore. And he was helping families in Asia set up their endowments and their philanthropic activities, but had been a priest for 20 years in Hawaii. And we hit it off and we got talking, and that conversation over a 2-hour-long plane ride has been very seminal for me in understanding what I wanted out of life and what I wanted to do. And that has set in place a lot of events that have led up to Zolt.
You're in your late 20s. You already know that this is what you want to do, and you're not making money at this point, but you're so passionate about this news app and rolling it out. And I'm assuming your crew is the same way. You have a little elephant with you, and I asked you to bring that. Tell me about that.
Sure. So this is a gift from my mom. She gave it to me about 10 years ago when I moved from
India?
Yeah, when I moved from India to America to study. And an elephant typically in Indian culture is considered to be good luck and symbolizes new beginnings. So it's something that I've carried with me ever since. And when I left, you know, I was coming to America to a country that I had only been there once before on holiday when I was little, and, you know, to set up a new life. And it's worked out pretty well since, and it's just something that I carry with myself wherever I go.
And we should say that you go back and forth from New York back to Bombay because your dad is not well. So you're busy taking care of Dad on top of launching Zolt. How has that changed your life?
It's changed my life in more ways than I could imagine. So when I was 8 years old, my father was diagnosed with brain cancer and has been left paralyzed on the left side of his body. And as a child, I was too young at the time, and both my mother and brother did a very good job of sheltering me as much as they could from the realities of the situation. But now that I go back and I have to take care of my father, in addition to a startup, both of which are very stressful. You know, every day at a startup, you're fighting for survival. I have 11 other mouths to feed. And then to go home and then be with my father, you know, who needs a lot of care right now. It's probably been one of the most difficult and stressful things that I've ever done. But in that process, I have gotten so much closer to my parents. I've learned to enjoy time with them. I'm so grateful for the effort, for the love and the time that they invested in me when I was growing up. And probably the biggest lesson out of all of it is, you know, I look at my dad and I learn how to be an optimist. When you're a startup, every day is a question mark. And there'll be good days and there'll be bad days. But I look at my dad, you know, who was a budding entrepreneur himself, and then boom, overnight, his life was cut short, changed, but he has stayed incredibly positive throughout it all. And he has taught me the value of being optimistic. The doctors had given him 3 months to live. He's 23 years past his surgery.
Wow.
and still clocking. And had he been a pessimist, that would not be the case. And that's something I try to integrate into my startup and my business life as well.
As we look at your Zolt, there is a piece in here where you can donate a book.
That's right.
And I think this is so wonderful. In your late 20s, you're already giving back. Tell me about this.
Sure. So, you know, when we put together Zolt, we wanted to give our users a reason to, you know, tell their friends about Zolt, and we brainstormed different ideas and marketing tricks, and we realized that people who read the news are typically people who are engaged with the world around them and care about the world about them, and also like reading and like books. So I hunted around, and there was one of my employees happened to intern at this an NGO in India that gave books to children. And we just thought it would be a nice gesture where if you tell your friends about Zolt and you can share a code through the app, we would donate a book in your name. So we're helping you read, and simultaneously you can help someone in India read, because there is a lot of kids out there who want to read, who are going to schools, but there's just not enough books for them to read. And this state of education there is not great. So,
how poor is it where you live in India? Describe that to somebody who's never been there.
So where I live is Bombay. Bombay is a city of almost 16 to 18 million people. It's a metropolis, and you have extraordinary disparities in wealth in that city. I mean, I read somewhere that there's over 30 billionaires in Bombay, and on the same city you'll have people, you know, who are living on less than $200 a month. So it really depends on which part of the city you're in. And then the country, India as well, you know, it's a land of extraordinary opportunity and richness and wealth, but also a land of extraordinary disparity, where you have some of the world's richest people and you also have some of the world's poorest people. So it really depends on where you are.
In 5 years, where's Zolt, do you think?
Well, in 5 years, I think we're the go-to news app for a lot of people, right? Attention spans are getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and we are giving you the information that you need to know.
And I think there's categories of bookmarks and science and health and lifestyle. Rush, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for being a millennial that cares about the world and gives back. And I think you're onto something. As I told you, I think it's a tremendous app. And thank you so much for coming all the way from India to tell us all about it.
Thanks a lot, Ann. It's been a pleasure.
You bet.
When one missing, who's this girl spending all night kissing, and the bumper's right here, then who else is missing? Got a little sidetracked to find myself wishing to find the keys to the door, but it's also a metaphor. Need to keep locked in the grocery store, but mine just to save time. Skip right ahead to the last ride. The harder we look, the less we can see. Don't you know, you know, you know that you need me.